Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next guest clinician, Joe Vaszily from New Jersey. And, he's just got a very successful career, 17 NCAA tournaments, 8 Final Fours. You refereed the 2018 National Championship, is that correct? So I know that he's going to be depositing a lot of wisdom with his presentation. So Joe, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Alika, it's a pleasure. I'm humbled. I'm humbled for the opportunity. I will be shaving at some point before November 9th, just so that my friend and coordinator who's on the call is aware. But thank you for the compliments, those in the chat who have complimented my my appearance tonight. But I'm truly blessed to be here and just share and learn from you, and hopefully I can impart a couple things on you as well. Am I able to share my screen, Alika?
Yes, let me give you sharing permissions here.
Does he have an accent like mine, y'all think? Don't we sound a lot alike?
Chris is nodding her head. You think I have a Southern accent? Oh boy.
Don't lie, Kristen. Don't lie.
And there's a y'all.
There will be a couple of y'alls tonight, though, that's for sure.
I know. It took me 10 years to get the guy to say y'all.
Absolutely not a chance you guys sound the same.
No chance.
Are you not able to share your screen?
All the way from Australia.
Exactly.
Are you able to share your screen, Joe?
Let's give it a shot. I am, it looks like. Can you all see it?
Awesome.
Now I just have to pull up the right presentation. There we go. So, each year we kind of start the year as we do our study groups in various parts of the country, particularly I would say east of the Mississippi. We collaborate and put together, and a few of us have done this presentation a few times, and it's really about, a lot of it is about the organizational side of the business. So I'm gonna try to move through this as quickly as possible. But as Deb alluded to, taking care of our business between April 4th and November 8th is very important. It's extremely important because as we get into this presentation, we run a business, and it's a business that our supervisors, we provide a service, when we go out on the floor, and whether it's at the highest college level or the high school level or the rec league level, we are essentially contracted each time we go out on the floor and accept an assignment. And so it's our responsibility to take care of the things that we can control with regard to doing our job and doing it well and doing it at a high level, night in and night out. And so, understanding that it's not just I'm going to work 3 rec league games today. It's I'm going to actually perform and do a great job for the kids, the student athletes, the pros, whatever level that you're officiating at. We're serving. And the game is not about us, it's about them. And so the reason why we need to think about this as a business and a service that it's our business is because, ultimately, as you're going to see on this next slide, our number one customer is the coordinators that we work for. And so just get to it. They're the ones that hire us. And again, whether it's, rec league or high school level ball or Division 1, 2, or 3, if you want to get hired, you have to know and understand what each coordinator wants and is looking for. Because I can tell you over the last 22 years officiating Division 1, each coordinator has their own style on how they want things done, how they want things returned. And certainly, 22 years ago, we didn't have the technology that we have today where you push a button and your contract sign and it goes right back. And then you don't even know how to get it because sometimes you don't even get a link to where it is. And so knowing how to download it and keep a copy of it for yourself and filling all things out and doing them, with I say precision because, when we send things back to coordinators who request, particularly as we know in these last couple of years with COVID and things that may be required of us with paperwork and things like that, if we send in too much paperwork that's not required, you've just created more work for not only your supervisor, but the person who's handling the administrative side of the filing things and keeping things in a desk drawer. So you want to be that person who fills things out on time. I just got an email tonight that I have a contract due on October 1st, which is essentially, another, 8 or 9 days. Why am I waiting 8 or 9 days, right? Why don't I just take care of it when I have the opportunity to take care of it? Because as I'm going to, kind of say in a few minutes, we're in a period right now, particularly, in Division 1, 2, 3 level, where we are 47 days away from opening day in Division 1. Division 1 opens on November 9th. It's Tuesday. And 47 days sounds like a lot, but it's not. And Division 2 and 3, I believe, start on that Friday. So it may be 50 days away. And it's not that far away. And we still have not received a lot of contracts yet from a lot of the leagues. And so there's going to be a plethora and a flurry of paperwork that comes in the next 2 weeks. And if you're not a good handler of how, when it comes in, taking care of it and doing the business side of what seems mundane. Yes, it is mundane, but that's part of being responsible for the business that you're in. And coordinators want to hire people that take care of their business and don't create extra work for them. And so that's why I always like to think of it as this as our business, and the coordinators that we work for are our number one customer. And so, if you're in a service business, that you want to make your customer happy. Well, we want to make our coordinators happy during the season, obviously, when it comes to calling plays and getting plays right. But, as important is taking care of this stuff off the floor before we even get there. Because, I was told a long time ago by someone, how can someone trust you on the floor to call plays and get plays right if we can't follow simple directions on getting paperwork in on a timely basis and without causing any kinds of, difficulties for our coordinators. So as I was putting this presentation together this year, I went back and looked at emails that I received from coordinators, and I work for 5 coordinators. And so just from the 5 of them, what I got in emails during the COVID season. Okay. So December 2020, we started November 25th last year. So we're 2 weeks into the season. And the first email that I had pulled up said, many of you have not electronically signed your contracts. So immediately what goes to my brain is, why are people working games and how are they working games if they haven't even signed the contract yet? Okay. The next one, once you accept a game, you are expected to honor that commitment unless your coordinators discuss the new game. And this one always raises questions, like people want to understand. And the reality is, and we'll get into a little bit of how priority systems work, but it really applies at any, particularly in college, at any level that you work. Because if you accept an assignment from someone, that's a contract. That is a contract that you've accepted to work that particular day. November 9th is opening day. If I don't close that date, if I only close that date from the person who gave it to me, obviously, because I have an assignment that day, and I don't close it out for anyone else, well, then what am I doing? I'm telling anyone else that I'm be able to work that night, when really, in reality, I am not. And so, and I know Deb mentioned it earlier, but integrity is a huge part of what we do, right? Because when you go out on the floor, we want to get every play right. Every official that goes out on a floor night in and night wants to get every play right. And yet we strive for that. But every night we are going to miss plays. That's just the nature of the business we are. We don't like to miss a lot of them. We're going to miss a play here or there. But these types of things these will be things that are career-ending type things when you are not integrity. When you do not use good practices in terms of closing out dates. And we'll get into closing out dates and how that works. But, the next one, please close out dates. You have games in other Division I conferences. So if coordinators are sending these emails out in the middle of the season and in the middle of a COVID season where they were, night in and night out, not even sure if the games the next day were going to be played because of teams and COVID and who was getting knocked out and where everything else is going. And they're sending emails out to their staff saying, you're not taking care of the things off the floor that are mundane. That is a reflection on all of us. And so that's why I think it's so important for us to continually remind ourselves year in and year out how important it is to take care of these things off the floor. Again, next one, please immediately update your availability. Now, this is January 21. We're 6 weeks into the season, and we still have people who are not updating their availability. And that may be, and I'm just going to use Debbie because she's on the call here, but Debbie has a game that has opened up because someone can't get there, and she calls you and says, I need you to get to so-and-so today. You show open. Oh, well, I forgot to close the date out. And that's a problem because that's just created extra work for Debbie or any other coordinator that may call you that day because they need you in a hurry to get somewhere and you're not because you're not open for whatever reason it is. And I always like to say, and Deb alluded to it, with kind of closing out dates for personal things. If you have personal things on particular days, whether it's work, it's family, holiday, whatever it is, close the date. You will never, ever get a complaint from a supervisor or a coordinator when you're asked to close out dates and you close them out. They're actually going to appreciate it because when those dates come, when there's snow in the Northeast and there's ice storms coming a week in advance, Debbie and other coordinators are already looking at the pieces to move because we had 26 inches of snow on February 1st in the Northeast. And so they've got to anticipate these things, not on February 1st, but January 24th and 25th and 26th. And how can I move and who can I move? And if you show closed on those days, they don't have to worry about calling you, worrying about that if you're open because you're already closed. And that you make actually someone's job easier when you close dates out that you want to be closed. Okay. And so, again, just some more things that I found in emails that I received last season, January 2021, 10-10-5. Now, at least we're getting into the second half. These are more play call related things. But again, as you saw in the first 6 weeks of the season, how many reminders we got for the business side of what we do. And that's just that, again, like I said, it's a reflection on us. But 10-10-5 fouls are automatic. Here's a play calling thing. Weather delays, anticipate and plan accordingly. And obviously that's where you live. But as we all, for any of you who live in the South, particularly in the kind of Louisiana, Texas area, February 14th, happy Valentine's Day, there was an ice storm that went from Houston right across Louisiana. And those types of places shut down for weeks. I remember being in Baton Rouge on February 21st, and there was no water in the stores. That was a week later. There's no water in Whole Foods. And I mean, it's crazy. And so you have to, and we have to work together with our coordinators. And if you're a crew chief and know where your partners are coming from. And again, I have a further slide about this, but I'll touch on a little bit now because, when you are a crew chief and you're asked to get your partner's information on travel, and, I'm very specific when I ask for information from my partners. I say, I am confirming, next Friday's game, 5 days out, 6 days out at so-and-so. I am flying in or I'm driving in, I landed such and such a time. I have my own rental car and I will meet you at the arena. Please provide me with your travel details. I cannot tell you how many people will respond and say, confirmed, see you at the arena. That's not answering the question that somebody's asked you to provide them with. This is not hard stuff. I appreciate when people write back, I'm flying in on American Airlines, flight XX. I'm due to arrive at 11:30. I'll meet you at the arena at 5. I'll have my own car reserved, and I'll meet you at the arena at 5:30. That's a perfect response. Now, when we talk about weather, now when Debbie is looking 3 or 4 days out, she says, okay, where is your crew coming from? And within 5 minutes, I can send a text back to her, say, I'm coming from here. Here's my travel. Here my second partner is coming from here and here. And here's their travel. And so is coming from here and here. And there's their travel. She now has information in 5 minutes, as opposed to me having to track that down. And 2 hours later, I'm finally getting back to her. It's these little things to make our coordinators' jobs easy that they truly appreciate, because we want to make their jobs as easy as possible. And the simple things like taking care of your close date calendars, signing your contracts, filling out your paperwork on time makes their jobs a lot easier as we get to November 9th. Remember, we haven't even started the season yet, right? And so we've got to make sure that we're taking care of these things, before we get to, before it becomes a problem, before it becomes a problem for Deb or any other coordinator. February 2021, misapplied technical foul rule, right? Those things are big, they're major, right? And that means that, we're not taking care of things on the floor. And that's a problem. And so again, to me, that's a rule book thing. And we should be in our rule books now. We've got access to them now. You can get electronic copies from ncaapublications.org and download them to your iBooks and iThis and iThat, or whatever device that you use. You can take them to FedEx. I hate to use that word FedEx because I'm tired of FedEx after the last year, but Kinko's and Office Depot, you take a little thumb drive and they'll print it in. I like to get it in a big 8.5 by 11 normal paper so that I can write in it. It's kind of hard to write in some of the little ones that the NCAA sends out, but anything that you need to do to be in the rule book is imperative, because that's what this time of the season is for. Because once the season comes, we're throwing the ball up. It's going to be really hard for us to be spending a lot of time, in the rule book. And that's why we have this season, these next 6 weeks, to really study the case book, study the rule book. And everybody has a different way of studying it. I like to go one rule at a time, a rule and the case book, and looking at the plays in the rule book at the same time. But whatever works for you and how you run your business, so that on November 9th or November 12th, you're ready to go, it is important. So again, just best practices, organization, obviously, communication. And really the last one is kind of what we talked about: provide a level of service that others want to utilize. If you want to get hired, Debbie mentioned a bunch of things in the last half hour of her session that I was on, that if you do them well, those are the types of people that they want to hire, that you take care of things off the floor as well as on the floor. And when you don't take care of things well off the floor, it's hard to stay in this business, because we have a huge responsibility and to make their jobs as easy as possible, because I know that this is a really hard time for coordinators with schedules and 6 weeks and 6 weeks till opening day, and they have a lot of work ahead of them. And so making their jobs easy as possible right now is super important. Again, so we're in the preseason now, we're in the middle of it. And the second bullet point up here, I think, is what I was alluding to earlier. We are about to get bombarded with, and it started earlier this week. I got 2 contracts just this week, and I'm still waiting on 4 or 5 more. And so, and this is at the Division I level. So think about Division II and III. They're going through the same things as well. And so you've got to stay on top of it. As I like to use, as it comes in, I like to get it out. I take care of my physical, the things that I need, and some leagues require physical, some aren't anymore. You've got to have that stuff ready to go, so that when you get the requests for it and the requests for your contract, you are able to knock it out and take care of it. We've got conference websites. I have 5 websites that I have to manage. Okay. That's, and some people have more than that they have to manage. and everybody has a system for how they want to manage it. One thing I want to mention about your personal data, we have seen people, unfortunately, we live in this digital age where people get hacked, their emails get hacked. It becomes a challenge for coordinators like Deb to have to deal with us when we change our email. So, someone mentioned to me that an alternative is, instead of changing your email, is change your password. And so if you can do that, at least through the scheduling part of the season, it may make their job a little bit easier. And I hope no one gets hacked. I don't want anybody to get hacked, but unfortunately, some people get hacked. And so, taking care of that piece is really helpful. Conflict of interest is super, super important. It's a part of our contracts. And, there are about 5 or 6 standard questions that usually come in on every contract. And on many of them, what the first question is, do you have any affiliation with the university, or do you make any financial contributions to a university? I do. It's a Division III university. I'm actually up here in Pennsylvania where I went, it was my alma mater, and I support that university. Even on a Division I contract, I'm putting down that I support that university because we have to be transparent. We have to be honest. And again, it goes back to the integrity piece that Debbie talked about. If you have any conflict of interest, and it spells out what a conflict, any immediate family member or spouse, if you have an immediate family member or spouse that has any affiliation, went to the university, works at a university in that particular conference, you need to disclose it. You cannot hide from it. If you hide from it, you will get caught. And when you get caught, the ramifications are probably severe, and I don't want to know what those ramifications are. And so that's why, again, reading the contract, my first point, read them. Everybody wants to see how much we may get paid, or how much, did we move up a tier? Did we move down a tier? And all that other stuff. But there are a lot of things in there. And one of the things I wanted to read to you, and because I think it's important for you to know, is, and I'm just going to pull it up here. There is a stipulation in a contract that I've received already, and it says this: for games scheduled after 4 p.m. Eastern time, or whatever time zone you're in, official must be in the city or town in which the game is to be played at least 2.5 hours prior to tip. If the game time is scheduled for before 4 p.m., official must be in the city or town the preceding night and at the game site 90 minutes before. I can tell you a lot of my colleagues still don't know that because they didn't read their contracts, okay? That is important. That means if I have a 2 p.m. tip on Sunday, I'm supposed to be in the night before. And if I can't get in the night before, I need agreed in writing by the supervisor, which is the last part I didn't read. I need my supervisor to know that I can't get in the night before and the reason why. And then it's their decision to leave me on the game or not. Do I have a backup flight to get in the next day? And again, with COVID, there were no backup flights most days because there was flight schedules were limited to just about any city unless you were going from a hub to a hub. So knowing what's in your contract is really, really important, because if you have a 2 o'clock game on a Sunday and you're not going in until Sunday morning on a flight, that is a drive, there's a little bit more flexibility. If I live an hour from the university, certainly I don't need to be in the city because I am in the surrounding area. Because I got asked that question last week. Somebody said, well, what if I live 2.5 hours from the game site? You are within the game site when you're 2 hours away, and you don't need to be going to that site 2 hours. If it's a 2 o'clock game, you don't need to be, within the area, the night before. But certainly when you're flying in, you need to get written approval if you're not coming in the night before for games that start before 4 p.m. So it's very important for you to read not just the financial piece to it, but everything else. And again, some leagues are requiring physicals. Some leagues are requiring liability insurance. And I put that on, near the bottom. Health and liability insurance are two different things. Health insurance is your health insurance. It's what you go when you go to the doctor and you have health insurance. liability insurance is what protects you on the floor from situations like what happened. And if anyone was attended the NASO virtual conference this summer, there was a situation in Minnesota with a wrestling referee where they were sued, and the NAS he had liability insurance, and NASO was successfully able to defend him from the charges that were brought against him for some parents of a child who he disqualified because of whatever the reason was. You can Google the article, but liability insurance is important. Many leagues require it. Some leagues are requiring proof of it, and so you can get it through NASO. It's very inexpensive. There's a WICBU it's an IBO organization that's on the East Coast. They offer it as well. It's very minimal cost. And I believe it's important for all of us when we take the floor to have this insurance, because it's going to protect us from, unfortunately, we live in a litigious society, and, players get hurt. There's things that happen on the court. There's things, whatever it is, you want to be protected. So I believe that liability insurance is important. There are multiple apps out there that can scan things for you very easily. In the old days, for those veterans who are on the call, and Debbie was talking about early in her career, everything, you had to print it and sign it and do all these things. Well, a lot of them now are electronic, which is really nice, because you can file them away pretty simply. But even now, some leagues, you still have to sign a page and scan it, and send it back. And, finding a fax machine and doing all those things. Well, now there's apps, right? You print the page, you sign it. There's an app where you scan the page and poof, it's gone in an instant. And so, knowing whatever those apps are out there as you're getting this paperwork, that's required, these apps allow you to do it really, really quickly. And again, I said the last thing just with this slide, adhere to deadlines. October 1st, I have one that came in tonight. It's going to happen. I'm going to do it tomorrow when I get home. Don't wait till the last minute to sign paperwork, because I know, because Debbie has done it in the past, she has sent emails to people on staffs that have not filled out their paperwork on time. Why am I still waiting for you to sign your contract 5 days after the due date when it was? Or this year with vaccination cards for the leagues that are requiring proof of vaccination. Why are you not sending it in the time that you're being asked to send it in? Send it in when the email comes in. You're making their jobs a lot easier when you take care of it that way. So close dates. We usually get a lot of questions around this. And again, as you progress in your career, wherever you are, the more leagues you potentially are going to work, the more systems that are out there. And I only named a few here. Official Hub is one that Debbie uses. Blue Zebra is used by a number of Division I coordinators. Zebra Web is another system that's used on the East Coast. Of course, Arbiter is used a lot at the high school level. I know on the East Coast here, and I would guess probably in other areas of the country, Arbiter is being used as well. And every website looks different in terms of how you're supposed to close dates and all that other stuff. I will tell you, most of them, green means you have an assignment from that particular coordinator. Red means you're closed, and white means you're open. And so there may be other colors. I know Zebra Web is a system that has blue that shows pending dates that you maybe have, whatever Arbiter has. But at the end of the day, if you have 5 calendars, you want to I have an iPad sitting right next to me here in this hotel room. I have a computer here. And what I do is I make sure that all 5, as I'm looking at them, they all look the same, with all the same colors. Okay. Now, in one league, there's going to be some dates that are green, and every other league, they should be red. The Zebra Web system, that league, those dates that I have from that particular coordinator need to be green, and all the other dates need to be red in all the other leagues. So again, you have to, yes, it is tedious work at times. And because not every league it's not possible for them to be on the same platform. And my response to officials is, so what? Do it. You have to do it. You want to work? this is what makes Debbie and everyone else's job easy, is when you have no issues with closed dates, because double booking becomes a problem. Now, there are times when you get double booked because it happens in the beginning of the season, because two coordinators may have thought that they talked and they may still have an issue. That will get worked out. Those types of things will get resolved. But once and we get into priorities, with how our system works at the Division I level on the women's side, when 1 and 2 decide all your dates and they publish them to you, which usually happens at the same time, you better get in there and close those dates on all your other calendars. Because once 1 and 2 push the button to send their dates out, number 3 has the next crack at your dates. And you can't be leaving dates open on 1 and 2s just because you want the higher fee or the better game, when it's now number 3, it's number 3's turn to get your dates. Number 1 and 2 had your turn. Now it's number 3, and number 3 is going to get an opportunity. When number 3 publishes and sends them to you, you close them out on 1 and 2 and all the others. So that 4 and 5 and 6 now, and however many leagues you work, now they know these are your close dates, and now I have your platform to work from. So it's important to do this and do it on a timely basis. We often say stop, drop, and close. That doesn't mean if you're driving 65 miles on the highway to immediately stop in the middle of the highway, but there are exits on highways usually. And so if you're getting and if you're in a period of the season where dates are coming in, like now, like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you have to make it a priority that if you are somewhere, you have a place to get Wi-Fi or you have cellular service, to make sure that when they push the button to send them, you're going to get an email that says the dates are out. Go in and close them out on all the other websites. And some coordinators like Debbie have 2 websites. So, and they don't talk to each other. So you have to make sure that on Blue Zebra, if I have a Blue Zebra game, that on Official Hub, that date is closed. And if I have an Official Hub game, that on Blue Zebra, it's closed. Again, it sounds tedious, but those who do it well and those who create no issues for Debbie, those are the people she wants to work with and use, because they're not creating problems. And she can trust them with stuff off the floor. She can trust them with stuff on the floor. So, and again, just, there's note sections where you can write things in, and because we've gotten a lot of questions in the last couple of weeks about Division III and Division II and Division I, and how do you manage that system? And I will tell you this: if you're most Division I coordinators will, if you have a Division II or Division III game and you write in the notes, you don't close the date, but you write in the notes a note, they're going to look at it, and they don't ever want you to miss an opportunity if you have an opportunity to work on a given day. But there are days where they may need you. And so they may call a Division II or Division III coordinator and say, I really need, and I'm going to use Andrew just because he's on my screen here, Andrew Canning's on Sunday, December 5th, because it's a hard day. It's a lot of days. And that Division II or III coordinator may release you, may not. Most probably will, because they don't want to hold you back either. But that's how you do it. That's how you provide information. You don't just, if you get a date, because it goes back to, I said earlier, when you accept a date from someone, you accept it. But there is a hierarchy where Division I and II may need you. And if you provide that information for them, it makes their job a lot easier, because they may actually let you work that game, or they may reach out to the Division III or the Division II coordinator. So just be transparent. Just provide the information in the notes section. I know that every website pretty much has some kind of place to write it in, because we're asked to write it in on our places when we close the date out, and again, if I write in, let's just say I have a game, Xavier at Missouri, 3 p.m. on that date, a coordinator can then go in and say, especially when you have weather and things like that, they can say, well, if you want so-and-so at Missouri that day, I can really use him because of snow and ice, and keep him close because he's at St. John's the day before. And so that's where providing this information, is so critical. And don't take it for granted, these little things that make their jobs a lot easier. So, just be transparent, provide the information, and most will tell you to put that information in there anyway. So by not doing it, essentially, you're not following the directions they've asked you to follow. And again, it may take you 35 more seconds to type that information in. And that's why I say when close dates come in, they close in this part of the season, they come in rapidly, and things are changing and in flux because there's a lot of moving pieces to schedules, conference schedules, and all that. So find a place to stop, find a place where you have good cell service or where you can get Wi-Fi, and take the time to do it when this stuff comes in. Okay. And again, I just put on their opening day. In season, there's a lot of holiday tournaments that come out. There's opportunities to go to, this year Cancun is back, the Bahamas is back, the U.S. Virgin Islands is back, as well as a number of Florida tournaments are back. These are called multi-team events, MTEs we call them. They are outside of our priority system. So when you're in Division I and you're in the priority system and you get asked to work a multi-team event, you are free to accept those multi-team events before Division I assigning. Well, and sometimes Division I assigning has commenced already. And so you are allowed to work these events outside of the priority system. I would suggest that, as these opportunities come up to you and you get asked, and they're great opportunities because there's usually some Power 5 conference teams that are in a lot of these tournaments. So they're good opportunities for you to work and see teams that you may not see, the entire season. So they're good opportunities. As you get into the scheduling seasons, it is good to let your supervisors know that you've been asked to work an MTE and that you'd like to work it. It just makes their job easier because they're working off of a sheet of your close dates. And if you go in and close out a couple of dates for these MTEs, it's helpful for them to know that, so they know as they're doing their scheduling in this part of the season that they know now not to assign you over Thanksgiving weekend or whatever it is. So, but know that MTEs, these multi-team events, they're outside the priority system. So, and then when it gets to postseason, I do want to mention one thing about the end of the season. Conference tournaments occur. Conference tournaments occur the first 2 weeks of March. Usually, kind of this year, I believe it's like Wednesday, March 4th or 5th, and they run through that following Sunday. I believe it's March 16th. Know that those first 4 or 5 days, Wednesday, March 4th through the 6th or the 7th, the leagues that are playing their conference tournaments the second week still have regular season games that week. And so, as you get into working conference tournaments year after year, once you start those first week tournaments, understand that if you leave yourself open on those dates, and there's leagues that you work that have conference games that day, those are big conference games days too, because they're playing for seeding. They're playing for some leagues. Not every team gets in their postseason tournament. They may be playing for a spot in it. They may be playing for a bye, whatever it is. And so if you may get a regular season date that day, and then all of a sudden a coordinator may need you or may want you to work a conference tournament. Now, I would say this, when you're working for multiple coordinators and one coordinator puts you on a conference game and another coordinator wants you for a playoff game, which they won't know until 2 weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks before playoffs, it gets hard sometimes for a coordinator to want to release somebody because there are not a lot of people open those days because they're already working conference tournaments because there's so many conference tournaments that happen that first weekend. And so and again, this worked for me early in my career, that as I started getting into working those first weekend conference tournaments, so that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when there were potential conference games going on, I just used to write in my closed calendar potential conference tournament. That, to me, it was not arrogance. I wasn't assuming that I was going to work it, but I wanted to not put coordinators in a spot where they would have to essentially need to release for because a regular season game, those games are just as important too to the coordinators and to the student athletes. And so if you wind up not working that conference tournament that you had worked in the past, use it as a day off in March. That's what it is. And the reality is that when those dates come available, coordinators are probably going to see that you're open and they're going to wind up using you anyway. So there is a good way to, I believe this is a good way to kind of help coordinators know who's really open and who's really closed, because that is, those 3 or 4 days in that first weekend in March are really, really hard for coordinators who have conference tournaments going on and regular season conference games, which are critical, you know, in a lot of leagues. I mean, the Ivy League up until 3 years ago didn't play a conference tournament. And so the regular season champion got the NCAA tournament bid. And so if a coordinator of the Ivy League, which right now is Debbie, if the coordinator of the Ivy League on that Saturday has number 1 playing number 2 and they're tied for first, that's a huge game. And so you may be on it because you left yourself open, and that may be a great thing for you because it's an opportunity to work that 1 versus 2 game in a really good league. And so, you know, you've got to manage that first week in March really, you know, really well, and just try to help your coordinators out as best you can, because they have a job to do. They need to put the best people on that game in the Ivy League or whatever it is that's still playing regular season games. And again, like I said, they're just as important to the student athletes as the conference tournament games are as well. So let us move to sorry. There we go. Preseason assignments, accepting dates, priority list. We talked a little bit about that. I like to keep an old school calendar. I still have one. But whatever system works for you, Google Calendar has a really cool thing that links to Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google, all the different Google apps that are out there. But whatever it is that can help you keep track of your stuff is important. We've talked about closed dates already. The one thing about cross-checking assignments as you start getting them, both teams have websites, both teams have game times. The last thing you want to see is Xavier at DePaul on DePaul's website and Xavier's website, DePaul at Xavier. If you see that, that's an immediate red flag, and your coordinator needs to know about it. You don't want to wait till the day of the game to email your coordinator and said, "Oh, I just checked the website and it's the one says DePaul at Xavier and the other one says Xavier DePaul. Where am I supposed to go?" That's not gonna look good. And these are the types of things, and websites are constantly getting updated and all that. So just be aware of and knowing that this type of information is available, and it's available pretty much right when the conference publishes the schedule. The team's websites are updating the schedule, and you've got to be on those and be aware of what changes may occur. A lot of games start out TBA, and then illegals. One team's website will say 6, and the other one will say noon. Again, got to raise that. With the A5 on Saturdays in November, they're not going to get game times for games until probably 2 or 3 days before, because football is playing at home. If North Carolina has a football game at home on a Saturday, and I have an assignment at North Carolina on that same Saturday, that women's basketball game is not going to have a game time until probably 2 or 3 days before, because they're trying to figure out what time the football game slot is. And Deb's got her hand up, so I'm going to let her speak.
Yeah, so don't email us and ask us where your stuff is. Don't ask, "Oh, I haven't got my contract yet. Did I not get one?" How about call the top tier people in that league and ask them if they got theirs? If they said yes, then no, you didn't get one. Then it's a legitimate question, like, did it get stuck somewhere, you know? Or how about say, "Listen, I recognize that I didn't get a contract this year. I want to thank you for the opportunities you provided me in the past. Hint, hint. If I was supposed to get one, send it. If I'm not supposed to get one, thank you." Because then I go, dang, did I just do the right thing by cutting this guy? Because I mean, look how polite he is and professional he is. Or, oh my gosh, this person didn't get it. I must have, like, something got jacked up. Have you checked your junk mail? Then we start troubleshooting. But if you don't ask the people like Joe, Joe goes, no, I didn't get an American contract, and he worked the championship game, then guess what? The contracts aren't out. You know, find another friend. Find a friend first.
Multiple friends. And if Debbie's
find a lot of friends. And we even say, and Joe knows this, like, you get something from me, or like call one of your people that you know is in the league. You read it to them, they read it to you before you ever ask me the question. Somebody like me, I should say, because y'all will probably figure it out.
And if Debbie's telling you this, that means it's happened. So, you know, and you know, I think about last year with COVID and the amount of emails that Debbie and others sent with just the protocols that were out, and how many people couldn't figure it out. And it was just, it's not that hard. And at the end of her email, she'd always say, if you don't understand, ask a friend. And that's it. I mean, the last line of defense is going back to your coordinator, ask. There have to be people in your circle that you know that can help you. I will help you. I'm going on record right now. Anyone on this call, if you get something from someone that you work for that you don't understand, call me. I've probably seen it. So, and I can help you, because if you can figure it out on your own, that's going to look really good for you. And because they are under a heap of pressure. I say they, but Debbie and all the others, they're under a heap of pressure right now, trying to, like I said, we're 47 days away from opening day. It's not that far. And so if we can make their jobs as easy as possible and limit the amount of things that derail them from what they should be really working on, that's a benefit for all of us and their whole staff. So
I would just add too that, you know, we're hiring you for your judgment. So try to impress us with good judgment. Like I tell people, please don't try to impress me with your imaginary awesomeness.
Exactly.
Like, show me you have good judgment. Show us, make us play you.
Absolutely. So just a couple of things on PPE. And again, you know, with masks and stuff this season, we're still kind of unsure of, you know, whether or not they're going to be required. But I think a lot of people will wear masks to officiate this year. Fox 40 has updated theirs. I just put a picture of it. The whistle pouch is there as well. I want to show you the one we used with precision timing this past season was this lightweight whistle mask by Action Zebra. It worked really well for a couple of reasons. It was comfortable. It had a flexible kind of nose beak to fit on your nose. It had a cord on the inside where your whistle attached to. And then this is where the precision timing cord fit on the outside, and it picked up the sound of the whistle. So this is one. There's probably a lot of other ones out there. I'm just showing you the one. I'm not advocating for anyone, but this one did work very well for many of us. So if you're in a league that needs, it's going to use precision timing, you need a mask. Some people were able to jury-rig the KN90s and get their whistle up there and do all that. However, you make it work for yourself, but know that there's a lot of options out there. And even more so this year as we get close. So, you know, again, just a few last things on the preseason. You know, study groups, obviously, they're important. We have more and more popping up. There's a few people on this call tonight who are on the Monday one. This is the Northeast Study Group, which started about 10 years ago, 12 years ago in a classroom in a high school with about 20 people. And we've had 225 the last 2 weeks on Zoom. And we, again, all levels, Division 1, 2, 3, we have some high school referees on it as well. We've started using breakout rooms. So we've kind of improved it, you know, over each year we try to make it better. But if there's no group in your local area, just reach out to somebody, because there's a network of people out there in the Midwest, on the East Coast, and I know on the West Coast, that can get you connected to someone that's doing a study group, as well. And obviously the benefits are numerous. It gets us watching plays. It gets us in the rule book. It gets us to go over things like this, which may seem tedious and mundane at times, but I think they're important for us to cover, because if all of us were doing our jobs, we wouldn't be getting the emails we get year in and year out to take care of our business. So until coordinators stop sending emails like that, for me, it's still important for us to be covering this stuff every year as a reminder for all of us. So, and you gotta love Wi-Fi sometimes. Here we go. Managing game assignments, again, checking and rechecking your schedule as game days get closer to make sure that the times and everything agrees. We talked a little bit about travel partners, travel plans, and if somebody asks you for specific plans, give them your specific travel plan. If they don't ask for it, give it to them anyway, because invariably they may need it. Again, with weather and all that stuff. I will say this: every coordinator has a little bit different procedures sometimes. Generally speaking, in most of the leagues I work, the referee is usually the one that will confirm. But there are leagues where coordinators want the U2 to do the confirming, and they want the U2 to call the school to speak to the SID or whoever it is as the designated contact to confirm that the game is actually happening. Know that, because again, because if there's a problem, the coordinator is going to say, well, did the U2 call the school to confirm that the game time was at 6? And if you can go back to the coordinator and say yes, this is who they spoke to and all that. Again, you've made your coordinator's job easy, because now they can back you and they go back to the school and say there was a miscommunication or something happened. When we can't go back to our coordinators with that information, it leaves them in a bind because we didn't follow through with what we were supposed to do. So, and game times and locations do change at times. They may move from a NBA arena with schools to the campus, the arena on campus. And so you've got to know that some schools have multiple places where they will play. And so, and I would think at high school and at the Division 2 and 3 levels, that's going to happen too. There may be a game site switch, a game site change. So, know all that stuff and utilize the websites. Even D2, D3 now are streaming games. You have access to video. It may not get uploaded to Synergy till 48 hours, but they have to upload it somewhere so that the opponent's coaches can see it. So you have access to video, and so utilize that video. I know I watched games of D2 games last year in the Northeast on Synergy. I was able to download them and see them. So there is video out there that is, you're able to watch your video, and it's important for you to be able to do that. And it's a good refresher this time of year to go back and look at some plays from games that you had, look at your mechanics, look at your positioning, do all that other stuff. We talked about contractual requirements about being in the location and being in the gym. Again, read your contract. It's super important. We talked about the weather. The old Farmer's Almanac, which is one of them, has said it's going to be a cold winter basically across the entire country. So, except for South Florida. So again, who knows? If it's a bad winter, it's a bad winter, and we're going to have to deal with it. And so that's going to require us to do a lot. Just again, keeping our supervisors abreast of what's going on around travel, and not day of, but 4 or 5 days in advance as we're getting the information from our partners. Again, just some pitfalls around, and many of these we've touched around already. Sacrificing your health, and Debbie talked a little bit about it earlier. The student athletes deserve best night in and night out. If you're hurt, don't go out and work. Take care of your body, take care of yourself. And when you're healthy and you're ready to go back out there, you go back out there. And so don't go out there for the check if you're not healthy. because you're not going to do your very best for the student athletes, and it's going to show on the court, it's going to show on film, and it's going to look bad for you. But ultimately, it's not what the student athlete deserves. And so that's where I love the word humility that Deb mentioned near the end of her presentation, because everything we do is humble service. It's humble service to a game we love, that it's a privilege and an honor. And, you know, I was at a reception tonight, and everyone asked me, do you still love what you do? I said, absolutely. I get to run up and down a basketball court for 40 minutes most nights. Some nights a little bit longer. How can that not be a blessing and a privilege? And if you don't have that attitude, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. Because the student, like I said, the game is about the student athletes, and it's not about us. So again, we talked about organization and cross-checking things, and just when you find the system that works for you, stick to it, and just keep doing it over and over, because it goes back to the beginning where your coordinator is your number one customer. And then lastly, I always like to say, it's not lions, tigers, and bears, but it's spreadsheets, taxes, and expenses. And as you aspire to the Division I level, and for those who are in it already, keeping track of your expenses and taxes is a very important part of your business, because there are a lot of things that the IRS wants to go after people for, and certainly we want to stay above ground. And you get to the point where I incorporated last year in 2020. And I use a really good tax accountant who was recommended highly by me. And he's awesome. He understands the business that we're in and knows how to do taxes. I mean, obviously he knows how to do taxes for businesses and people and individuals, but he also knows how to do them for referees, and he understands what we do. So if you get to the point where you need some assistance and guidance, you know, reach out to people who you know who are incorporated in LLC, because that kind of stuff is important. Because if you work through the middle to the end of March, remember, hopefully next year when the tax season gets back to somewhat normal, tax day is April 15th, and it's not May 15th and August 15th anymore. And so if you on March 27th, when your season ends, trying to figure out what you were doing back in December and November from prior year, you're going to be digging and digging, because it's you got to stay organized with this stuff, because it's important for your business. Control what seems to be impossible to control. Obviously, you know, whether Deb always used to say this, you know, when we would talk a lot about one-shot flights and all that, and people are like, well, that flight's going to get in. Well, how do you know that? How do you know that flight's going to take off? No one knows that flight's going to take off. In fact, no one knows that flight's going to take off until the wheels are actually up in the air, and you're actually up in the air. And that flight may not land. It may need to land somewhere else. It may need to divert, you know, all those kind of things. So we take for granted sometimes that we just think planes are going to go and planes are going to take off and they're going to land. And the reality is they're not sometimes. And that's why you're not getting approval to be at a site in a city before 4 o'clock for a 3 o'clock game or a 2 o'clock game or a noon game. You are rolling the dice, and those are dice that are usually going to be 7s or 11s, and whatever the craps table is are the bad numbers. So, you know all that. Also know that there are a lot of areas in the country where there's a lot of options to fly there. I learned early in my career when I was going to Cincinnati that I could.
Okay, Tootie.
Oop, there's Shane. Shane, you're not muted. When I was going to Cincinnati, I could go to Dayton, Columbus, Indianapolis, Louisville, Lexington, and obviously Cincinnati. That's 6 airports within 2 hours. So there are options out of there. And obviously, if you live in or near any major metropolitan city, Houston is one, New York City, obviously, Pennsylvania, anywhere up the East Coast, Washington, D.C., you better leave early. And if you have a 7 o'clock game and you got to be there at 5:30 and you're leaving at 4:30 to go 12 miles to St. John's, good luck. I used to work 12 miles from St. John's, and I would leave at 3, 2.5 hours to go 12 miles. And there was a day where it actually took me 2.5 hours to get there. So know that there are high traffic locations and places that require you to leave a lot earlier than what you think it's going to take you. So we talked about one-shot flights. Why the first flight of the day? Because if the plane got there the night before, it's usually going back somewhere that it needs to get to. And again, it's not a guarantee it's going to go, but usually first flights are the highest. What do the airlines use? The highest arrival rate on time are the first flights of the day. If you look at any airline, will publish a lot of their flights and their arrival times. First flights of the day are usually the highest. So I'll end there, Lika, and then open it up. I haven't looked at the chat, so I can't see if there's any questions or anything, but I'll end it there and stop sharing my screen. So
awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
I hope you all found this useful.
No, that's great. I really appreciate you being here and just sharing all that information. Again, it's just a lot of the stuff that we do take for granted off the court, that we really need to be on top of. And, one of the things that you had talked about early on in your presentation was the rule book, getting into your rule book. I'm just going to say, from personal experience, I know there's, quite a few newer officials on this call. I'm not trying to throw my former group under the bus, but the way that they would do things prior to the season starting is that when the test would open, they would go through the questions and they would answer it as a group. So a lot of us younger officials who have no experience are just taking these answers, plugging them into the test and not even knowing the rules. And so if that's what you've been doing, I highly challenge you now to just not do that. Get into the rule book, know the rules, and it's going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. And so if anyone has any questions for Joe, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, Joe. It's Maurice again. I know you can call me Reese. I noticed that you mentioned the Midwest area. Do you officiate that area? And if you do, how is it navigating that area? Because I live in Dayton, Ohio right now. So all those places you named, I'm pretty close to. It's a 2.5 hour drive.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the first time I ever landed in Chicago in January, the chill that went through my bones when I got off the plane was eye-opening. But once you get past the chill, it's okay. It's Chicago.
Says the New Yorker.
Yeah, we don't get the cold like Chicago gets. So we're not on a lake. I think once you get used to where you connect, we didn't do a piece of this. We've done in this presentation, we've done, kind of frequent flyer and car rentals and all those kind of things, which is another part of the travel piece of what we do, obviously. But I'm a United flyer, so I'm going to connect in O'Hare a lot throughout the season. So once you learn the airports that you go to, it's fairly easy to navigate. I mean, Chicago's like Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's got a system that works well with the monorail and stuff. So, places like Wichita, though, and Tulsa and, kind of some of those smaller cities, to your point, Reese, they're a little bit harder to get to sometimes. And so, especially with COVID, just with the flight options that have been reduced. So going to the bigger cities, it's still okay. And it's easy to get in and around. But, when you have a Wichita on your schedule, you gotta really do your homework and knowing where you're coming from the night before. And that's where the game time becomes so important. And again, you have a 12 noon game at Wichita and you're coming from Orlando the night before at 7. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're not getting there. Well, you may get there, but that would be outside of your contractual requirements, which is to get in there the night before or let your coordinator know and let them make the decision. Because I can tell you right now, there are no way that first of all, you're connecting anywhere to get from Orlando to Wichita, which means for you to get there with two flight options by 10:30 in the morning, which is an hour and a half before tip, is, I'm going to say, nearly impossible. I haven't looked at the flight schedules, but that's how you navigate the Midwest. You find your hub cities, and Chicago's the big hub. I mean, Minnesota is another one for the Delta flyers, and Detroit. And you have got to, because American uses Chicago, and you got to be flexible. I'm a United flyer, but I flew Delta more last season than I ever did, because Delta's schedules were better last year to a lot of places. They didn't cancel as many flights as United and American. So you got to be flexible, and you got to have options. And I will tell you this: if you are connecting to go somewhere and your coordinator wants to know if you have multiple options to go to Wichita, New York through Detroit to Wichita, and Newark through Chicago to Wichita is not two options. That's still only one option, because you're connecting in two different cities. So that doesn't mean that you have two options, because I've heard people try to do that before too. That doesn't work. That doesn't work, because what if you get stuck in Detroit and your Detroit to Wichita flight? Are you getting back to Newark to get to, or you're getting from Detroit to Chicago and then Chicago to Wichita? That ain't happening either. So,
well, and if you're too, we were assigning officials last night, and we were like, okay, they've got a Saturday night game at Syracuse. We want to put them on Saturday at Syracuse, like at 6 p.m. Well, all Sundays are going to be like noon, 1, 2. So I go on Travelocity and say, okay, what are the options between Syracuse and RDU? So it's not just a matter of putting somebody's name on it. Like, can Reese actually get there?
Yeah.
And there are 2 6 a.m. flights, one on American, one on Delta. That's not two options. Because by the time you sit for 30 minutes on your Delta flight, on your American flight, which you will, if you use American or anything that starts with a U that stands for useless, you're going to sit there. And then you can't catch your Delta that left like at 5:55, scheduled for 6.
Exactly.
So there's that. Actually, and Dayton's not so bad, because there's nothing out there.
Well, Dayton is hard to fly out of because they don't fly everywhere.
CVG.
Yeah, that's who I fly out of all the time. I fly out of Cincinnati, because straight flights to Atlanta, straight flights to Houston, straight flights to they fly. Huh?
Or Indy.
Yeah, Indy. Indy's an hour and 45-minute drive, so that's not that bad.
Yep.
Well, and the beautiful thing about Indy and Cincinnati is if you get stuck there, like you get down there and something doesn't go, or you work for multiple people, you've got options to go somewhere else. Hey, Reese, I see you're supposed to be over here today, but so-and-so stuck somewhere else, and I need you at Xavier. Boom, you're right there. Or if you're in Indy, you can just shoot over. You can go down to Louisville from either one of those. You can, like you're actually somewhere. You're in Dayton.
Well, thank you guys. That was very informational for me. I haven't got to that level, but I was just wondering about the flying and all that different stuff.
Well, let me tell you what. I use an app called Where the Ref. Well, it was named Where the Ref Are You, but that was very professional. So we changed it to Find a Ref. And so, honestly, we've given contracts on the run because we couldn't get anybody else there. So there is an upside to being in the middle of nowhere if you're the only one and you're checking all the boxes. If you're in a league that's going to require vaccination, you're vaccinated, you just happen to be there. And I open up that app and I scroll down to Xavier and I can see everybody. It's like an Uber thing. Like I can see everybody that's there, and I'm not trying to push my app, but I'm just saying, like, legitimately, you were going out of Cincinnati anyway, and you got canceled, and you're kind of down the mouth about it. And I look up, and there's somebody I've never used before, and it's got your profile. And now I hope, honestly, it's like $5.99 a month. I hope I don't ever have to use it. So I'm telling you, most people are wasting their money on it. But the one time I need to use it, the game check is worth it.
Okay, awesome. I do have one more.
Yeah, my point is going in and out of major hubs might put you in a better position for someone else to use you if something doesn't work out.
Awesome. I do have one question for the younger officials. Like, this will be my third year officiating period. So as far as resumes, what do you guys like to see on the resume, or who should we go to about building a resume, building our basketball resume?
Want me to go? Me or you, Jeff?
The only thing I want to say about resumes is put where you went to school. Because I might hire you because you live in Boston and nobody lives in Boston.
Well, I went to Wilberforce.
Well, there you go. And then I want to go put you on a URI game. And now I figure out you graduated from URI because literally by accident. And I can't use you at URI because the A10 doesn't let you referee your alma mater. So, I think that I don't know who to go to, but I know I need to do a better job as a supervisor of building a site where people can just fill out a form and they all look alike. Cause I don't want to be impressed. I just want the information, but I like to see everything you've done with basketball. You played this year to this year, even if it was in middle school. You coached here, even if it was a volunteer spot. Anytime you were on the floor, I'd like to see it by year so that I can see how many years you've actually spent in the game doing something. And then I'm interested in what people actually do for a real job. And I like to see when people have families, because then, when I look, like I've opened up somebody's close date calendar today, they can't leave till 2:45 every day. I know that about them because they're school teachers. So I know that, when they were all shut down for COVID, they could go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Or if someone manages people, then I'm like, man, they might be able to, they should be able to handle people, or they work for some management position. Like the resume clues you in on a lot of different things. And then if you volunteered someplace, like I want to know what else people do. I mean, Joe serves on a board of directors here, there, and yonder of volunteering his time at his church, at his university. Like I like to see that people are diverse in their interest. Doesn't speak to basketball, but it speaks to, you're a well-rounded person or that kind of thing. But primarily, I want to know where you live. Because if it's a league that requires you to drive, I got to know, like I've been mapping the whole time Joe's talking, I'm mapping how far people are from certain places. So I think a typical resume, but with a heavy focus on anything you've done. Also, if you refereed any other sports. I hired a girl this summer a woman this summer for basketball. I had no idea she had refereed a national championship lacrosse. Now I'm not going to think twice about putting her in a hot mess. So officiating experience, anything that touches basketball.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Will raised his hand next. So Will, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. So Joe, one thing that I have worked on is trying to find like a couple things to work on each game to get better on to improve like my weaknesses, which have turned out very well. I'm wondering, like, what do you do to kind of look at a few things to improve on like each game that you officiate and take some things away from?
Yeah, I mean, for me, every year the hardest thing I struggle with mechanics wise is getting my fist up on blocking fouls. I have worked really hard at getting my fist up on offensive fouls. So that's always one thing that I'm working on when I'm looking at film. The other thing I look at on film, particularly now, for me, is when I'm in the lead to make sure that I'm staying off the end line. And you'd be amazed. And again, some gyms and arenas, there's really no room on because you're in a high school gym or somewhere. Can't. But when you have the ability to get off the end line 2 or 3 feet, your depth perception changes dramatically. And for me, it has allowed me to, when I'm refereeing the defense on a restricted area LEV type of play, that's a drive to the basket, because our game has become too faceted right now, because that's what they watch on at the highest level. We see more and more threes and more drives to the basket. And so when we have drives to the basket, when you're in the lead and it's coming down the lane, you've got to know that that's your play. It's coming at you. And while you're refereeing the defense and the offensive player going to that, you got to find their feet too. If it's a play that starts outside the lower defensive box. Getting off the end line for me has allowed me to referee that play and find their feet, find the defender's feet on those types of plays. So it's little things like that when I'm looking at film. I'm looking at my positioning. Because I think we take for granted sometimes when we go and look at plays, we just, did I get that right? Did I get that right? I got that right. I missed that one, but I got that right. And we neglect sometimes our positioning on the floor. And, I remember Debbie at camp had Joey Crawford from the NBA probably 5 or 6 years ago. And all he did was pull up the screen of the TV feed. And he said, the trail isn't even in this shot, right? We're in a front court play. And he said, if the trail is not in the shot, how can the trail help the crew if the crew needs help on an assist play on a drive to the basket? And so we take for granted, right, that our positioning on the floor. And so if I see that it trails at the 40-foot mark on a front court play with all 10 players below the 3-point arc or free throw line, I have to be saying to myself, what is the trail doing so high? You're not in a position to help the crew. Invariably, there's going to be a play or two in a game where someone needs to come out of their primary to help. If you're in a good position and then you have a lane of vision to see it, it's a crew saving play. And when you're not, if you're 40 feet from the basket on a drive to the basket, it's almost impossible for you to come and help the crew. So when you're breaking down film, it's also looking at positioning too.
And this is just, help me just look as as I grow as someone just of different, ability stats. And it's been special. Just in one season, I've grown, so much from not being able to stop the clock to being able to having more confidence in myself and being able to officiate plays that are more incidental contact. So it really shows when you have access to film.
Yes, it is. And you're using the right language, like incidental contact. If anybody uses the word marginal, throw that word out. Don't ever use it again. It doesn't appear in our rule book once.
Or gather.
Contact is one of two things. It's illegal or incidental. And that's the beauty of night in and night out is we get to judge. And some nights the same contact one night is going to be illegal, and another night it may be incidental. If rhythm, speed, balance, quickness is not affected, one night it's incidental contact. And when rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness is, which is what our philosophy of officiating says in the CCA manual, when rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness is affected, it becomes illegal contact. Now, that does not apply to BHD, ball handler, 10-10-5. That is an automatic foul. When there are two touches, a multiple touch, an arm bar, however you want to, talk about it. Those are not rhythm, speed, balance, quickness. That is the second touch is a foul. And on November 9th, we have to get back. We got to be doing it in scrimmages and exhibitions and everything else that leads up to November 9th, because Deb is going to bat for us and others are going to bat for us. And when we call it, Debbie's getting good reports that we're calling it. And when we don't call it, those are the nights where we get ourselves in hot water. So, and invariably, when you don't call a 10-10-5 foul, and I'm getting off on a long tangent, Alika, I'm sorry. When you don't call a 10-10-5 foul, the next decision is a lot harder because it's a block. It's a run over play to the basket. And I can't tell you, because I had a partner do it 3 years ago. He called a blocking foul when he missed 10-10-5 foul. And I mean, it was an obvious offensive foul. And he knew it. And so 2 wrongs don't make a right, which is why when we call 10-10-5 fouls, the way they're supposed to be, the way the rule is written, we don't have to make a harder decision, which is the purpose of 10-10-5.
And I would say too, back to the what to work on stuff, get someone else to watch your video because you're used to seeing yourself. Mm-hmm. You need to get somebody else that is really good on mechanics so that they can recognize. I mean, a lot of times we don't know what we don't know, and we just don't see ourselves as we are. We just don't.
And the networking and having like so many people just watch. So like, I mean, my different film has, it's given me multiple perspectives, mm-hmm. and it's got me so much better in different ways. It's just helped, and I found different books and different strategies for me to help me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate you putting the time in, because I'm telling you, because I only referee from my chair, I'm really pretty good. I don't have to run. No, seriously, like I can look at Joe and go, you're constantly in pinch the paint, right? And he feels like he's probably in close down when he's staying in pinch the paint. Or, you really need to punch a player control with your left hand, or when you call a travel, you're turning your back. Well, you remember that travel, you remember calling the travel, so you don't really watch that play because you already know the answer. So when I bring it to his attention, he goes right to a commitment to not turning his back on, when he calls a travel, not turning his back on. So like it's a fresh look for somebody else to watch you do what you may not see. And honestly, even if it's somebody that doesn't have as much experience as you, if you say, I want you to pick me apart, now they like dial it up. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they see things they really wouldn't have seen if they thought they weren't qualified to break you down. But you better be ready to listen too,
Yeah, thank you both for these just exceptional comments. In taking your time and interest in me with this question, it's gonna just help me grow even more. Thank you all for for this talk tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thanks again, Joe. I really appreciate it. Just your willingness. Just you're a true character of what humility looks like, and so I just appreciate you and Deb. So thank you all so much. We're gonna move on, but if you have to go, I know it's pretty late over there on the Eastern Conference. I just Eastern time. I wish you well. I wish you pray you have a great season, and we'll definitely talk to you and see you soon. Same with you, Deb.